When I unexpectedly lost the baby, Bobby George was waiting in line to buy the first cup of cocoa of autumn for his first love, Zara Monroe. Seeing my pale face, he gently covered her eyes. "Bad luck, don't look." Then he coldly said to me, "Don't think I don't know you purposely made your face so pale. What are you pretending for?" Afterward, he took Zara's hand and turned to leave. Late that night, I heard Bobby play sleep-inducing piano music for Zara, who couldn't sleep. I calmly dialed a number. I said, "Dad, I've made up my mind. I want to go back and take over our family business." Listening to the sleep-inducing piano music echoing in the house, I thought about the child I had just lost. I calmly made a call. "Dad, I've made up my mind. I want to go home and take over our family business." I didn't even know Bobby could play the piano after 5 years of being together. Maybe it wasn't that he couldn't play, but rather, I wasn't worthy of having him play the piano for me. Just as I hung up the phone, Bobby came out of the piano room. He wore a white shirt, and his eyes still held some lingering tenderness. In the past, when he came home, he was always too tired to talk and would fall asleep immediately. He never had the leisure to play the piano for half a night. "Who were you on the phone with?" Bobby asked, his eyes still glued to his phone. He scrolled through his phone and smiled carelessly. I told him the truth. It was my dad. He hummed in response and didn't ask further. I knew he didn't care about my family either. After all, we had been in a relationship for 5 years, and he had never once mentioned meeting my parents. He had never been interested in my family. When Bobby picked up a cup of water, he noticed that it wasn't the honey water he usually drank. For the first time, his gaze reluctantly shifted to me. "You said you were going to the hospital today. Did you go?" he asked. I looked down at my phone and typed. "I did." "Did you have a sickness?" Bobby asked casually. I smiled bitterly and shrugged. "No sickness. It wasn't really a sickness. I was pregnant. I had planned to surprise him. But on the way, I had an accident and lost the baby. It was pointless to talk about it now. After all, he and Zara were both there when it happened." "I think you're just overreacting," he said. "By the way, don't forget my honey water next time." Bobby reminded me about his honey water and went into the study with a smile. He didn't even notice my pale face. I checked out his Facebook page with my secondary account. Sure enough, there was a post visible to everyone except me. Guarantee letter. I guarantee to buy Zara the first cup of cocoa of autumn every year from now on. I'll never forget, and I'll keep my promise. As compensation for almost forgetting this year, I'll deliver breakfast to her every day for the next week. I sneered as I read the comments below that praised them as so sweet in love. The pair of cheaters were getting compliments. I immediately contacted my family's legal team. Since I had decided to separate, everything that belonged to me should be returned. The next morning, Bobby woke up early and went to a famous restaurant to buy food. I was about to open the heat-preserving bag when Bobby slapped my hand. "Don't you like salad?" he asked. "This one is for you. Eat this." I was stunned for a moment, then quickly remembered the content from his post yesterday. It seemed that the beautifully packaged food was for Zara. I stared at the salad being pushed toward me and coldly said, "Bobby, we've been in a relationship for 5 years. Don't you know I don't eat salad? Don't you know the smell makes me sick?" Bobby froze, saying coldly, "It's good enough that I bought it for you. Eat it if you want, stop being so picky." I glared at Bobby, who didn't care about my preferences. I turned and went back to the room, pulling out a bag. I said, "When you see Zara, give her this pair of underwear I found in the master bedroom." Bobby looked surprised, then quickly tried to explain, "Zara always leaves things behind. I'll remind her to be more careful next time. As your secretary, Zara left something in the master bedroom. She really needs to be more careful," I scoffed. "Jasmine, watch your words. I won't allow you to speak badly of Zara," Bobby huffed, irritated. I couldn't be bothered to say anything more, just coldly watching him. Bobby seemed to realize his reaction was too strong, so he offered to take me to work today. Just when he thought I would be grateful, I shook my head and refused. We had been together for 5 years, and I had been there for him during the difficult days of building the business. Even when I had stomach bleeding from drinking with clients, I never got the privilege of having Bobby pick me up and drop me off from work. Now, finally, he offered this, but it was to make up for another woman. It was laughable. This kind of compensation meant nothing to me. I turned and left the house. Once I arrived at the office, I began preparing my resignation letter. For some reason, most of my colleagues looked at me with sympathetic eyes. "Ms. Harper, you're finally here," my assistant, Lexi Dunn, said hesitantly. I looked at her anxious expression, realizing she was genuinely worried about me. I gave her my only real smile in the past few days. "What's the matter? Why are you so urgent?" I asked. "Ms. Harper, you should see this." Lexi showed me a video. It was shot at the company entrance. Bobby was holding a cup of cocoa while gently helping Zara out of the car and taking her bag. They smiled at each other, as if they were a couple. The sight of Bobby's careful actions and his tender gaze broke my heart. Zara was his first love. Compared to her, I was just an unimportant person who had been there since the beginning of his business. Looking at the cocoa in Bobby's hand, I couldn't help but recall the message he sent me a few days ago. What kind of cocoa do girls usually like? At that time, I happily named my favorite. I even read many articles about the first cocoa of the fall season. But then, I saw Zara's post, "The first cocoa of the fall is here." The picture was of the cocoa I liked. That was when I realized that Bobby had never planned to treat me well. I remembered how he found all kinds of reasons to hire an art student as a secretary. He must have had many intentions from the start. I was the only fool who believed that Bobby would never betray me. I looked at the broken mug in front of me. It had slipped from my hand and shattered. Bitter coffee spilled out, just like my mood. I was broken and bitter. I gritted my teeth and stepped on the pieces. I said, "It's fine. I know everything. I'm resigning. None of this will matter to me anymore." I gave Lexi a new phone number, then turned and entered the CEO's office. I threw my resignation letter in front of Bobby.